Everyone to my round 18 AFL fantasy review. So this week, we didn't do very well. We were basically just on par. So we were ranked 807th before the round and finished on 808th due to late changes. We actually climbed one spot at the conclusion of the final game, but late changes caused us to drop two spots. So that's pretty tough, but that's just fantasy. So we ranked around 6K for the round, which is pretty disappointing. And that's up to the trades that I made this week. So I downgraded Sligo to Cumberland, and I traded Sligo over Ware and Hoff, which in hindsight was a pretty bad decision because Sligo had Collingwood, and Collingwood a pretty easy matchup for Crows, and the Crows also dropped Matt Crouch, and one other midfielder, can't remember who it was, but they dropped two midfielders, and which hinted at Saligo playing more mid time, and I just ignored that for some reason. But yeah, I traded Saligo because he was the most valuable of the three, and so I just wanted to bank more cash. And probably in hindsight, shouldn't have done that. I should have just gone with whoever had the toughest matchup, and I would have traded Ware probably because Hoff still has money to make. Oh, I thought Hoff still had money to make, but he was terrible against Hawthorn, so yeah, I was wrong about that. So Ware probably should have been the one I traded last week, but I didn't do that. My other trade was trading Cripps to Brayshaw, and Cripps scored 84. Brayshaw scored 78, which was his lowest score of the season. So brought him in on his worst week. So that didn't really help with my round, where Cripps also outscored him. So I actually would have scored 6 more if I didn't trade him. The rest of my team, there were some standouts, and everyone else is pretty average, to be honest. So probably the only reason why I had a decent round was because I had Laird as my vice captain. So he scored 163, and so that got doubled to 326. If he hadn't scored well, I probably would have captained Miller, so got saved there because Miller had a low ton. 106 isn't a very good captain score. Mills and Merritt were also very good. So Mills obviously has recovered from his terrible game a fortnight ago, with 148 and 132. So he becomes a captain option for this week as well. Merritt also very good. So I think he can be considered a captain option as well this week against Collingwood. I'm pretty satisfied with Petrarca. I thought he would have scored an 80 against Port Adelaide, but he proved me wrong and turned up, barely. I'm pretty disappointed with the likes of Sicily, Darcy, and English though, because English, I was expecting a low score with Jordan Sweets late in with Norton out, and then him being matched up against Ryder and Marshall as well. But I didn't think it would be 58. Thought he would have scored around 80, which I would have been satisfied with, considering the circumstances. And Darcy, who had Hickey as his opponent this week, had 41 hitouts and only scored 78 because he forgot how to mark and then also forgot how to touch the ball. He only had 8 touches and 1 mark, so I remember him getting his hands to a lot of balls, but he just dropped all of them. And yeah, he just had a rough day out, so yeah, pretty tough for him. I'm hoping to trade him soon, but I think I have some other issues to deal with right now. And then with my rookies, I brought in Cumberland, who did very well for my cash generation. I probably could have tried to loop him on, but his game was too late in the weekend to be able to be looped on because I'd already used Skinner for Carmichael, who actually turned up. and scored 52 more points than the premium, in quotes, who I would have fielded instead, which was Jed Anderson. So his 59 will make me trade him this week. He has Hawthorn and Essendon in the next fortnight, which is very friendly for his scoring, but he scored 59 against Richmond. I think he probably lost part of his midfield role to Jason Horne-Francis, and he only had 69% time on ground, so I'm not sure what's wrong with him, but yeah, I think he's definitely getting traded this week because I just don't want to own him anymore. Yeah, so Cully I'm also very happy with. I had brought him in 2 weeks ago, I think, expecting him to play soon, and he did end up playing this week and scored a nice 76 and had a nice price rise of 34k. So all three of these rookies who I've brought in the past 3 weeks have done very well, and I'm pretty happy with the way I got them over the likes of Burgoyne and D'Ambrosio, who both got dropped. But yeah, hopefully my primos can start playing as well as them though, because I barely had any tons in the team this week, which was pretty disappointing. Most of my players scored in the 90s and 80s, so that it's not bad, but it could have been a lot better considering there were quite a few high scores in Bontempelli, Himmelberg, and also Sinclair, who all scored very high scores and are quite popular, and Dacos as well. Yeah, they all scored very well, so that probably put me behind a few spots as well, which is disappointing since I wanted to bring in Bontempelli last week over Brayshaw and Steele, and looks like I chose the worst one out of all three of them. So yeah, I'll definitely consider him this week though. Moving on to next round, now round 19. I'm looking to captain Steele and have Brayshaw as my VC. He plays on Friday night, I believe, against Richmond, which is a very favourable matchup. So hopefully he bounces back this week because he had a pretty down week last weekend with the 78. So yeah, he will be my vice captain, and I'll probably captain Steele, who I'm also trading in this week. So he's obviously done very well last month since his return from injury, and he has a very good matchup against the Eagles this week. So hopefully he'll be a safe 120 as captain if Brayshaw fails. My trades this week, hopefully, or probably, will be Anderson and Petrarca to Marshall and Steele. So I'm obviously trading Anderson because I don't see him being a keeper nor scoring very well in the next few weeks with Horn back. So even though he has a matchup against Hawthorn, I just don't want to risk it because I probably won't get very lucky with a Carmichael ton again or a Cumberland 89 to save me. And then Petrarca, even though he scored a ton against Port Adelaide and has had a pretty decent last month, I just don't trust him to maintain this. He scored 3 goals against Geelong for only 96, and then his ceiling game of 141 occurred 3 weeks ago, and he scored 3 goals in that. So I'd rather upgrade him to Steele, which should get me hopefully around 15 extra points per week for the rest of the season. Also bringing in Marshall because Ryder has been listed as injured for 4 to 6 weeks with his calf, and at his age I don't think the Saints will risk bring him back this season. So Marshall should be solid rock for the rest of the year. And he has pretty good matchups, and just history has said that he plays very well as the solid rockman. He was solid rock in round 15 and scored 131, so definitely jump on board with him with the Ryder injury. Other trade options, I've also considered downgrading Ware to a basement rookie and then upgrading Anderson to Marshall, and then banking around $300,000 for next week, where I could double upgrade the likes of Petrarca or Darcy or Sicily to a top player in their lines. So yeah, I'll definitely consider that as well, but I don't want to miss Steele's game against the Eagles. I feel like he could be really big against the Eagles, could go 130, and he's a good captain option. Even though I have Meriden Mills this week, I just want to have the reliable Steele as my captain. So yeah, these are probably the trades I'll stick with, but definitely considering the other option as well. Other trading targets, I'm also considering Sinclair, who has very friendly run in the next fortnight against the Eagles and Hawks, much like Steele, and he's shown that he's got a very good ability to score in recent weeks and has a massive ceiling as well. So if you have the luxury and the cash, then definitely jump on Sinclair, because he could go average 130 in these next 2 weeks. And with the way the St Kilda team is playing right now, he could also average like 110 in the last 3 weeks because of their kick mark game, but I doubt they stick with that game plan because that hasn't worked at all. I'm also looking at Bontempelli. So he's obviously had his stealing game now. So yeah, and he has a pretty tough matchup, which is why I probably won't be getting him and will go value with Marshall. But yeah, he's still a very good trading option. He should do quite well against the Demons this week. But yeah, obviously tough 2 games after that. But then he finishes with Hawthorn last week. So he should be a pretty safe average of 100 to 105 for the rest of the year, in my opinion. So yeah, if you need a top forward, then go for him. But I'm not going to do that because it's either Marshall for me or I'll get Dylan Moore, who's seen a spike in scoring in the last fortnight because of a change in role, I believe. So he's been played through the midfield a bit more. So his disposal count has gone up from like 16, 18, 16 in weeks prior to now being 29 and 25, albeit against easy opponents. He's also a very high quantity marker of the ball, and he also tackles. So he's got everything that's required to be a good fantasy player. And obviously he'll probably have scoreboard impact since he's originally a small forward. He's only 750k, so if you don't want to get Marshall, then Moore you should definitely consider. Yeah, obviously Steele, very good trading target this week with the easy matchups in the next fortnight. Don't think there's much to say about him except that he's done very well in the last month and will continue that in the next fortnight. I still think Brayshaw is a good trade-in target because of his ceiling, and he's got a relatively decent run home. So Richmond should be pretty good. Melbourne, also an easy team to score against for midfielders. Bulldogs in recent weeks have been quite easy as well. So Steele scored 117 against them, even though his team was terrible. And then Brayshaw also has Eagles and then the Giants to finish the season. So I can see him averaging probably 115 for the rest of the season, or 110 to 115. And then finally, I think Bailey Smith is also a good target if you're looking for a safe ton every week and a top forward. On his return from suspension, he scored 109 against the Saints. Obviously, we know what he did at the start of the year. He was probably looking like a top 8 midfielder, and then when he got DPP status, was looking like he could be a top 2 forward before he got suspended. But yeah, now he's dropped in price. He could probably drop a little bit more next week. So you could either get him this week or get someone like Steele or Marshall or Sinclair or Bontempelli or Moore this week, and then get Bailey Smith next week, because I think he'll still be around the same price. And yeah, the only worry is that he has pretty tough matchups in the next few weeks. But hopefully that's not that shouldn't affect him that much. But yeah, those are probably the main trade-in targets this week. So many teams probably have the same midfield now. Or after this week they will, because many people will be getting in Brayshaw or Steele, maybe even Merritt, to finish off their mids. Oliver also could be a good trade-in target because a lot of people traded him, so he could actually be a point difference now. So he has quite the tough matchup for the run home. He only has 2 easy games against Dogs. Well, that's arguably easy, and then Collingwood should be easy. But yeah, it's Oliver, so I don't think his matchup matters that much. I think you'll only just be looking out for a tag risk. And these teams, maybe Aish for the Dockers. But yeah, none of these teams tag, except for Aish, but that also seems pretty unlikely. And then if you also want a different point of difference in the midfield, then McCluggage has been in a very rich vein of form in the last month. Was actually looking to get him after his bye, because Lyons was out, so I thought he'd get more inside mid-time. Fagan also said that he'd get more inside mid-time, which was highlighted by his spike in scoring in the previous fortnight. But I had forced trades, so couldn't get him. But yeah, he's gone on to be very impressive. He's probably been I'm pretty sure he's been the second highest averaging midfielder in the league since then, behind Laird. So he's definitely probably a top 8 midfielder from here on. So he's got the Suns, the Tigers, who should be pretty easy tons for him. And then Blues, pretty tough. And then St Kilda, Melbourne should be pretty easy. So I could see him averaging probably 100, 105, 110, probably 110 from here on out. So he's and he's only owned by what, 2%? Yeah, 2.11%. So yeah, he's definitely a very good target this week. But yeah, that probably concludes the round review and the round 19 preview. So I'll talk to you guys next week.